This episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast is brought to you by Bluehost. Try the #1 recommended web hosting provider. With plans starting at just $3.95 a month, you'll get a free domain, free site builder, easy one-click WordPress installs, and 24/7 support. But what's just as impressive as what you get is what you don't get, as there's no contracts, no hidden fees, and no gimmicks. Go check them out at lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/Bluehost. You're listening to the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast, the weekly show sharing proven methods and systems in marketing, equipment, and customer service, educational and motivational, to help make your lawn care business an overwhelming success. Now here's your host, Julio Tomei. Welcome, Lawn Care Nation, to another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. I'm your host, Julio Tomei, and this is episode number 117, entitled Gutter Cleaning for Profit. Well, hello, everybody, and thanks again for joining me this week on another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. I really appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week, as always. I also appreciate all of the questions and comments and feedback that has been coming through over the past few weeks, and also a part of that is the iTunes reviews. And I know I ask or talk about the iTunes reviews each week, but that is because it is very important to the growth of the show and for discovery of new listeners to the podcast. On that note, there was another review that came in recently from a Turf Monkey Lawn Care, whose podcast review title was Great Podcast. And it says, extremely motivating. This podcast has great energy and tons of insights for individuals new in lawn care. Well, thank you very much, Turf Monkey Lawn Care. I appreciate the time and effort it took to go through the process in iTunes and leave a review, and as well for the kind words. And I'm glad that you're enjoying and finding value in the podcast. So if you'd like to leave a review, if you haven't already, you can head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/reviews, and there'll be a link there that'll take you through to iTunes where you can leave a review. And like I've said before, I know some of you guys have asked if you can leave reviews in other ways and stuff, but the truth of the matter currently is that iTunes is essentially the hub for podcasts. And regardless of what platform you're on, the reviews on iTunes just hold so much more weight than in any other sort of platform. And that's why it's extremely important to have those reviews on iTunes. So I thank you guys in advance again for leaving any reviews on iTunes. I also wanted to talk this week a little bit about something I'm sort of thinking about, possibly offering some updates here for the, already looking forward to the fall and the off season. And I am, obviously with the podcast part of it, am looking for the next round of interviews. I know you guys really do enjoy those interview episodes. And I've talked about how I have really enjoyed doing them as well, which really took me by surprise, to be quite honest, because like I say, I'm a very introverted person and had no real desire to do interview episodes. But it was feedback from you, the audience, who, I saw this theme that kept repeating itself with you guys requesting or suggesting that I do interviews. And, I'm sure a lot of you guys know by now, I did a bunch of them, and I was hooked right after that first interview with Connolly Ibsen. It's we went through a round of about 10 or 12 interviews, I think it was, last winter, sort of towards the end of the off season, and unfortunately, I wish I had started sooner with those interviews, because like I said, I was having so much fun there in the off season doing those interviews, and then the spring season came upon us, and it just became much too difficult to be able to schedule in interview episodes and work with people's different schedules and stuff during that time. So looking forward to doing the next round here. I'd like to obviously start them earlier, so right into the off season. Maybe start them even right away if possible, doing some sporadically, and then get into sort of regular rhythm once the season actually finishes off there, for good, probably in that November time frame. So that would give me a few more extra months of doing interview episodes throughout the winter, to give you guys a nice full season of interview episodes. So basically, long story short here is I'm looking for potential interviewees. So if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, you'd like to talk about your business, if you've enjoyed, those interview episodes that I've done in the past, essentially it would follow the same format, follow the same sort of theme, same types of questions, and just a very, relaxed sort of conversation. If you'd like to give back to Lawn Care Nation and in this community, then just hit me up either on Instagram, instant messaging, or you can email me through the website. Use lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/contact, and we can share some details there. Especially interested if you have, a YouTube channel, or some social media presence, or if you have a unique story or a unique angle on maybe a service that you offer that you wouldn't mind sharing tips on. I like having a theme for each guest when I do interview guests, to have sort of a specialty or something that they can talk about. If you have any suggestions on, something that you can offer the show, that would be fantastic. Now, on another note, a lot of you guys know that I'm a big proponent and a big believer in having a website for your lawn care business. I've talked about how for every business that I've basically started throughout my whole life, I have had a website for. Websites were, when I became of age, an adult, and started my first businesses and stuff, it was sort of, right there at the start of, the internet, as we know it today, and having websites and stuff like that. It just went hand in hand for me to have a website, to have that sort of online brochure of my business. So, throughout the years, I have sort of honed those self-taught skills on how to build a website. Many of you guys have seen my tutorial video on how to build a website. I know a lot of you guys have reached out to me and used that video to build your own websites. A lot of you guys with absolutely no prior experience ever building a website before, using my step-by-step tutorial video on how to build a basic website for your business. But a lot of you have also reached out to me because I guess early on, I can't remember what episode it was, but I was actually thinking about offering a website building service for lawn care businesses. And I think I mentioned it in one of the podcast episodes, and I may have even had a link and stuff to the website with some basic information there. And a few of you reached out to me about it. I sort of, at the time, decided to go in a different direction. And I think I may try to offer that service again as a way to essentially monetize the podcast. A bunch of you have actually reached out to me. One person in particular, just a few weeks ago, emailed me asking if I still offer that service and stuff. So I started, seeing this trend again about that. Just like I saw that trend with the interview episodes, people, asking me and suggesting that I should do interview episodes. Well, sort of this trend seems to be reoccurring and popping up of people asking for help with their websites, asking for me to, or if I still offer that service of building somebody's website. And I think originally I was offering to build a basic, say 3 or 4 page WordPress based website, similar to the one for my own company, where, it'd have all your, your homepage, your services page, a contact page, and then a optional, free estimate page where customers can then, request a free estimate, and the website is set up to take the customer's information and text you on your mobile device with the customer's contact information and what they're asking for. Basically like having an automated secretary working for you 24 hours a day. This sort of system for me has been fantastic. It has worked effortlessly. And like I say, it's 24 hours a day. I get texts or emails, I should say rather, on my phone, at all hours sometimes. So it really goes to show that people are up at different hours of the day looking for, different services and stuff. And then they stumble upon the website and see that they can submit a request. So rather than waiting till the morning to phone, or waiting till, say, the next week, if it's a weekend, to phone, they'll just pop in their information there and request that you contact them for a free estimate. So, it's worked really, really great, sort of having that sort of automated system on the website. So I thought, I may, if, the interest is out there, and people do want that service, I may offer that as well over the winter months. So if this is something that you think may interest you, I'm sort of just gauging the demand for this type of service. So if this is something that would interest you, if you would like me to personally help you with your website, to build you a basic 3 or 4 page WordPress website, that sort of, like I said, if you have a look at my company's website at cloverdale-mowing.com, something similar to that. So if you're interested in something like that, just let me know at lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/contact. And, depending on the demand, I can put together a package on what I think it would cost to build you guys your own custom website for your lawn care business. All right, so this week I wanted to talk about gutter cleaning. And gutter cleaning for profit, obviously. Just another add-on service, another job that you can add to your lawn care business, your landscaping business, that can be quite profitable and can really generate some income during slower times. Now, this is a prime example right now in the year, because for those here in North America, at least, you're coming out of the summer months. It's been really hot and dry, but you'll be heading into the cooler fall season with that, particularly in certain parts of the countries here in Canada and United States on sort of the, Pacific Northwest, probably in a bunch of other areas as well. Comes with it the rain and wetter seasons, wetter days. And now is the time. It's actually a prime time to start adding some gutter cleaning services, because like I said, you may be coming off of a dry season. I know here where I am, the mowing has been very, very slow, very sporadic. Most customers do not have in-ground sprinkler systems. They don't water their lawns throughout the summer, at least in the area or the suburb that I live in. There are still obviously a few, but not a majority of lawns. So most lawns do not need cutting on a regular basis, at least. So you're going into the fall. You've got the last push here. Yes, there's the cleanups, the leaf cleanups and all that stuff to look forward to, and to sort of get your last push. But, basically for me, when I look at September, I'm looking at 2 months left to build that income, to build that cushion, to keep me basically afloat, keep me going through the winter months. So you start looking at the situation. You go, okay, well, the mowing is still dried up. It's, we had actually some rain this weekend for the first time in like 56 days or something like that. It was the driest summer on record for us, and it was very, very warm. Some of those days were almost uncomfortable. So it was a very dry season, probably a lot drier for a lot of you guys out there and a lot warmer for a lot of you guys out there in certain parts. But for us, it was a pretty dry season. So I'm still going to September, where traditionally right now, I would start mowing every house every week. And I still will be going to a weekly schedule now instead of bi-weekly. But, I anticipate that a lot of those lawns are still not going to be ready. The rain this past weekend, and we did have a lot of rain at certain times of the weekend, will certainly help. Also, the cooler weather, which has already come this morning. I woke up and it came downstairs from my bedroom, and it was actually chilly. I had to put on a sweater for the first time, or a hoodie, I should say, for the first time. Because it was quite chilly in the morning. I don't have the furnace on or anything like that in the house. So, with that sort of change, you start going, okay, well, the lawns aren't going to probably need mowing still, because it was so dry this summer. It's going to take, probably a few weeks of rain and stuff once that starts. But, the current weather, we're back to a sunny day today and stuff. So, it's unpredictable as far as when the lawns for every house will need mowing again on a weekly basis. And it'll be very short-lived, because, like I say, we have 2 months left basically of mowing. So even if I were to start mowing every house on a weekly basis this week, which, like I say, I plan to, but not every house will get cut, because ultimately, as I arrive to each house, I'll have to make the decision. But even if every, best case scenario, every house got started to be cut every week, that's still only 8 cuts left before it gets too cold and the lawns go dormant for winter. At the end of October, Halloween usually marks that end. And with that comes sort of the frost and all that sort of stuff. So right now is a prime time to take advantage of gutter cleaning, because, like I say, the rainy season will be starting. And you don't want to be doing gutter cleaning too late when you start getting frost and things like that. because it just makes things a lot more difficult and makes things a lot more miserable to have to deal with cold ladders and getting in, because a lot of times if you've got to stick your hands in a gutter, a lot of times your gloves just don't cut it. They're too thick. You can't grab onto handfuls of stuff if you had to, so it makes it more difficult. So you want to do it when you still can do it without wearing gloves and stuff like that. So that's why this is sort of that prime opportunity, because that rainy season, the wet winter season is coming, and you can be proactive and also at the same time be making up that income for those lawns that don't quite need cutting at the moment. So I'm just going to break for the podcast announcements, and then after we'll come back and I'll talk about my experiences with gutter cleaning, what I found worked best, the sort of system or tools that I used, and just some overall safety tips. All right, so stay tuned. Hey guys, if you have any questions or comments about the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/contact. And while you're there, why not join my mailing list and get access to a free PDF document of a landscape maintenance contract you can feel free to copy and use in your own business. For you Instagram users out there, be sure to follow me at Lawn Care Business Success. And if you haven't checked out my videos yet, well, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe to the Lawn Care Business Success YouTube channel. Now, I know you guys love listening to audio while you work as much as I do, so I've partnered up with Audible to offer you guys a free 30-day trial and one free audiobook of your choice. There's no long-term commitments, and you can cancel anytime. And get this, even if you cancel during the trial period, you get to keep your free audiobook. It's a great way to try the service and see if Audible is right for you. So why not give it a try? Head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/audible. Now back to the show. Okay, so before the break there, I talked a little bit, or did a little introduction there on gutter cleaning. So when I was doing gutter cleaning quite often, I don't do it as much anymore. And it's not because it wasn't profitable or anything like that. It's because for the most part, you'll find when you're building your business, you'll do a lot of different services, because you're hungry, you need the work, you're building your business, you're just starting out, you do a bunch of stuff. But once you get into a rhythm, you build a good client list, a lot of your work will be derived from sort of the landscape maintenance and all that. And you won't need to really branch out too much into other sort of jobs that most people don't really think about you offering. For example, like I say, gutter cleaning is not something I do too often anymore, but I used to do tons and tons of them early on in my lawn care career. And I'm sort of going back to it and thinking about, going to customers and doing gutter cleaning again because of the situation with the extremely dry summer and all that sort of stuff. So it's something that I can still do, something that I can still pick up work with as needed. I just don't do it as much as I did in the beginning when, I didn't have as many clients and all that stuff, 10, 11, 12 years ago, where we were, doing them constantly. And I say when we were, because when I did gutter cleaning, this was one of the services that I always did with a partner. So I've mentioned to you guys before how I have a brother-in-law who also runs a lawn care company. And in fact, he runs another trailer under the same company name as me. But basically, it's kind of like a franchise system where it's his own business. He just runs it under my company name. And this gives us added exposure of having two different trailers out there, where people in the neighborhood, the suburb that we work in, they will see both of our trailers. And also when we do projects like this, where we need help or need a hand, we can rely on each other to come out and give each other a hand. This also works good occasionally if, say, you need to go on a vacation or something like that may say you want to do a longer vacation, having I know I've covered for him during a summer, I think it was last summer, where he went away, and there was some lawns that just, they still needed cutting. They're watered and fertilized and all that sort of stuff. So, he just gave me the addresses of the houses, and I went there and did the lawn. And for the customer, they see the same trailer and same thing out there on the same scheduled day and all that sort of stuff. So it's a very easy transition. But anyways, so with that, it works good because when we do jobs together, then you have two trucks and trailers with the same company names on them and all that sort of stuff. So it just looks like the exact same company. And that worked very well. But like I said, anytime we had to do any sort of job that required getting on the roof, we would always have two people there. Ultimately, for the safety factor of it. We tried cleaning gutters a whole bunch of different ways. The traditional way would be to just put a ladder up to the gutter, an extension ladder. You get up there with a bucket and maybe a paint scraper, and you just start digging stuff out of the gutter, either with your hands and, like I say, using a paint scraper to really get any sort of debris out of there. A word on extension ladders, to make sure you use if you're using an extension ladder, obviously you want to have somebody down at the bottom. Especially if you're going to like a 2-story sort of height, you want to make sure you have those supports that are on the sides of the ladder that sort of sit on the roof to secure or just make it a little bit more stable up there as well, so that you just don't have an extension ladder leaning up against, because in most cases it'll just be the gutter face, and you don't want to have the ladder leaning up against the gutter. For one, that's not very safe. The ladder can slide along the gutter edge. And also, there's a very good chance that you'll damage the gutter, that it'll cave in and dent from the ladder, and even get scratched up at the sort of least case scenario. You'll scratch up the paint on the faces of the gutter. On a traditional sort of aluminum gutter. So you want to make sure that you have those, I call them wings or arms, that sort of clip into the sides of an extension ladder, and you extend the ladder up past the roof, and then those actually sit on the roof. And that's what is, when you're climbing on the ladder, that is where your weight is supported on, is that those wings on top of the roof, so that there's the ladder isn't actually touching the gutter. The same would go with doing Christmas lights and stuff like that. You'd want to have those wings on the sides. Now, there's a whole bunch of different ways to clean a gutter. Like I say, going up a ladder and doing it by hand is sort of the traditional sense, having a bucket with you and doing it that way. There's attachments for your blowers that I've seen, where you can, take a handheld blower and it'll have a bunch of gutter cleaning attachments, essentially a bunch of pipes with a curled end on the side that you can fit up into the gutter from the ground and blow out your gutter. This, I've never tried this system, and I'm sure it would work all right. Except what I don't like about this is that, for one, you can't see what you're doing. And for two, you're standing down below underneath it, which, then you're going to have all of the junk that's in those gutters falling on top of you. So yeah, that's one system I've never used. Another system that we would use and try it out was we bought a gutter cleaning kit for a large shop vac, and this was just a really long vacuum hose, so that you could have your large shop vac on the ground and then go up the ladder 20 feet with your big long hose and actually vacuum out your gutters. So this system seemed to work pretty good as well. You would get the occasional clogs and stuff, which was a bit of a pain. You'd also have to go up and down the ladder quite often, because when you're on the ladder, there's only so far that you can reach. And then obviously you got to come back down, move the ladder, move the shop vac, go back up the ladder, and do it that way. The most efficient way that we found working in pairs, and I'm not one for heights. I don't like heights, but this is one that I would always do too, because it was just so much quicker. Is basically we would both go up on the roof, and we would put safety harnesses on each other, and we would have a lanyard or a rope connected to our safety harnesses, basically connecting us to each other. So how we would do this was, my brother-in-law is a lot lighter weight than me. He is a pretty skinny guy, where I am a pretty beefy guy, if you've seen me. So what we would do is he would put his harness on with the lanyard, or the connection for the lanyard, on his back, like you would traditionally see somebody wearing a safety harness. But I would wear it in reverse, with the harness connection on the front. So I would connect the rope to myself, to the front of me, and connect it to his back. And because he was lighter weight and he's a lot more comfortable on heights than I was basically used as the anchor. So I would go and basically hunker down and sit down, and stay low on the opposite side of the roof, on the other side of the peak, just low enough or high enough that I could see over the peak and see where he was, but low enough, and keeping my center of gravity low, so that if he fell, I wouldn't be dragged with him over the roof. So basically what I did was I would have gloves on, and I would basically just keep just enough tension on the rope as he would walk the edge of the roof. So he would walk the edge of the roof. He'd have a backpack blower on, and he would have basically the nozzle of the backpack blower, right basically in the gutter. He'd be blowing all of the debris out of the gutter, and it would just be falling onto the lawn below, or falling onto the driveway below, all of the debris. And this method was so quick. He, basically just walking around the edge, blowing, and everything just comes out. With a powerful backpack blower, it gets very clean. And I would just be monitoring where he was, and always staying sort of the opposite to him. So if he moved, to one side, I would, sort of move to that same side as well, but just on the opposite side of the roof, and keeping just enough tension so that the rope wasn't getting caught up on anything, any vents or things on the roof. I would just be monitoring that and making sure it was caught up, making sure he had just enough rope so that he was walking around the edge, but not any slack. So the thinking behind this was that if he were to fall, then like I said, there wouldn't be enough slack for him to fall off the edge of the roof. He would basically fall on the roof. He might start sliding maybe a few inches or so, but then the rope would stop him. And with me being anchored with my body mass, which was probably close to double what he weighs, and being on the opposite side of the roof, hunkered down in a low, keeping my center of gravity very low, because I'd be basically, like I said, sitting or almost lying down in a sort of crouched down position. I'd be basically the anchor to him. So we found that this system worked the best. It gave him the most secure feeling, as well as, like I say, he was able to very quickly walk around the roof and do what he did best, which was blowing out the gutters. He didn't have to worry about managing the safety rope or anything like that, because that was my job. So he could just quickly go through the roof, get it done, and we'd be over with it and back on the ground before you even knew it. And then it was just a matter of cleaning off the debris that was on the ground, whether it was in the lawn and stuff. You could just use some rakes and rake up the debris. If it was on the driveway, some shovels, a broom, that sort of thing. It would leave a little bit of residue and stuff if it was muddy and things like that. But, you would just take a garden hose and hose it all off, and it was done. And like I say, this was the most efficient system that we found. And we tried everything. Like I say, we bought the kit for the shop vac. We did that for a while. We did it by hand for a while. I even have one of those 18-foot extension poles for my pressure washer for washing houses and stuff. And I bought the gutter cleaning attachment for that, which is basically just a looped or hooked attachment that your pressure washer nozzle goes on to. But like I say, the problem with these sort of systems was, yes, it was safer, you're on the ground, but you're getting soaked, for one, because you're directly above you trying to clean out these gutters. Number two, you can't see what you're doing. So you don't actually know if you're cleaning the gutter, if you're just moving the junk around and it's getting stuck somewhere else, or just going down, because you couldn't see it. It made it a lot more difficult to do. I'm sure there's a bunch of technological ways now that you could check your work after. You could use a drone or something. But, you think about the involvement of that, and it's just too much effort. It was so easy just to put the ladder up, get the two of us up there, and within a few minutes, just walk in the perimeter, those gutters would be completely blown out and clean. And then it was the majority of our time was just spent on the ground, cleaning up any debris that was, on the driveways and lawn surfaces. Now, the thing I liked about this system as well was not only was it the most efficient and thorough, but you were up there and you could see that the gutters were clean. So you knew the job that you were doing, and you knew that that customer is not going to call you in 2 weeks' time when it's raining heavy and the gutters are overflowing again, because you cleaned out absolutely everything. And like I say, it does make a little bit of a mess. I know people will argue that it's too messy and stuff like that, but for the time savings and for the safety factor, because you're on the roof a lot less time than you would be, say, on ladders going around, where a lot more things can happen. And depending on the roof, you have to be very careful, obviously, on certain roofs. There were roofs that we wouldn't go on, and they were mainly cedar shake roofs that were quite popular here for a while. Or certain tile roofs can be quite slippery, but the cedar shake ones by far are the worst, because you get an algae or some moss that grows on the roof, and it can become very slippery, especially in the fall when it's usually pretty damp and stuff. So if it has a cedar shake roof and things like that, we don't go on them. We don't do roofs like that. So there is still a bit of mitigating and having to do gutter cleaning in different ways without our preferred system. But on an asphalt shingle roof, where you have the sand, asphalt, sand covered asphalt shingles where it's sort of the basically like sandpaper up there. It's super grippy, even on a wet day. If you've got some nice soft rubber shoes, some nice tennis shoes or something, doesn't work so great with work boots, depending on the soles on them. But with depending on it basically comes down to the soles. If the rubber compound in the soles of your boots are soft, it grips those asphalt shingles like nobody's business. It's so nice to be walking up on a roof with that. There's just so much grip. But on a boot, a certain boot, like I know I had a pair of work boots once where the compound of the soles was harder, rubber, almost a plasticky type thing, and it was very slippery up there. I remember going up on my own roof once with my work boots, and as soon as I got on the roof, I was like, oh, I got to get back down. These boots are way too slippery, way too dangerous. And then changing into some regular running shoes or something like that, and those gripped a lot better. So knowing those systems, I know there's boots or spikes or things you can get for certain boots for walking on cedar shakes and things like that. We just don't bother because obviously too, cedar shakes are a lot more fragile. They can crack and stuff like that with them. They tend to curl over time in the sun's heat, which makes them even more brittle and fragile if you're walking on them. So we try to stay off that sort of stuff. We don't walk on cedar shake roofs, and we'll do the gutter cleaning in a different way, whether it's by hand or the vacuuming, that sort of way. But then, now the price is then adjusted accordingly because it takes a lot longer to do the gutters by hand like that. You're spending so much more time. So those are, some things that I would look out for. As far as pricing goes, your area will dictate what you're going to be charging, as well as what your hourly charge is. Only every business is different. I've talked about this before too. What your expenses are, what it costs for your particular business to run in your city. What your insurance costs are and stuff like that. You need to know your numbers so you can know what to charge effectively. And depending on, how you want to run or service the gutter cleaning portion of it, whether you want to just do it for just your good regular clients or whether you want to open it up and do it for anyone who needs it done. We would charge differently versus if it was a single story home versus a second story home. So if a house has 2 levels and the gutters were on the top level, we would charge differently for that versus just a single story house where the gutter line may be 10 feet off the ground. The other thing to strongly consider is your insurance, your liability insurance. When doing something like gutter cleaning, you want to make sure that you're covered in the case of an accident. Now think about this. When you go and get your insurance for your business, in most cases, at least my experience has been, is that the insurance company asks you what type of business you're running, because the insurance rates differ depending on the type of business. So if you say you're a lawn care or landscaping company, and they quote you for your insurance and you buy your insurance, but then you start doing things like gutter cleaning or snow removal, which have more liability attached to them, more chances of either you getting hurt or somebody getting hurt in the case of snow removal, depending on whether you do a good job or not with the snow removal, and frozen conditions and things like that. And gutter cleaning, more chance of you getting hurt, falling off ladders and things like that. If the insurance company doesn't know that, then they may not cover you in the case of an accident. So you're getting insurance as a lawn care company, so they're expecting that you're on the ground all the time mowing lawns. And now you go up a ladder or you're on a roof and you fall off and you hurt yourself and you can't work. Well, they may deny any of your claims because you didn't tell them that beforehand, so you weren't sufficiently covered for that type of insurance. So make sure that your liability, read the fine print, make sure that your insurance will cover you roof for things like snow removal, for things like gutter cleaning, and even certain types of tree trimming and pruning, depending on the height. Those are all things to watch out for in your liability insurance to make sure that you are sufficiently covered if you're going to be doing these types of things that aren't, widely associated with your typical lawn care or landscaping business. So hopefully those tips on gutter cleaning will help you guys out if you are thinking about doing gutter cleaning or adding that service to your repertoire or list of services that your company offers. It can be quite profitable, but make sure that safety is paramount, that you're taking every precaution necessary so that you can live to enjoy those profits that you are earning. Hopefully you guys can take some tips from that and apply it to your own business. So I think that's it for this week. Here's to wishing you guys all overwhelming success and freedom in your lawn care business. Bye for now.